Welcome to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou, with my co-host, Zach Doise of LA Street, a Lafayette food truck. Here we talk about all the food happenings around Acadiana. If you like food, tune in. You might learn something new. On tonight's show, we have Toby Rodriguez in with us. I'm super excited. And I totally do have a culinary crush on him, so it's going to be awesome. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I've actually been trying to get you on the show for a while. I contacted you a while back, and you were like, "Oh, I'm in Vermont."
Yeah.
I want to say, yeah. And then I've been on Zach, but you're a busy guy, so and it's awesome. So thank you so much for finally coming on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, Poche Bridge proper. My father was a sugarcane farmer. We raised animals as a child, and so I've always had an involvement with livestock and the butchering of livestock and the cooking of it. And I guess about 6 years ago, I had walked away from that lifestyle, I guess, completely for about a good 10 years, maybe even a little bit longer, and was asked to do a boucherie in Eunice about 5-6 years ago, and had really no idea if I could actually do it, or if I would remember what I had to do as far as the process went. And got my dad on board where he was going to come in and help me, and then he didn't show up that morning, so I kind of had to wing it and got back into it and realized it was like riding a bike, and it all kind of came back to me. And since then, it's just the weirdest thing that this thing that I took for granted as a child, that the people who attend the boucheries were really moved by them and compelled to invite me to do more of them, and in the process have received some acclaim and some attention for it.
Now, you were on this past season of Top Chef when they were doing a kind of boucherie challenge. What was that experience like?
It sucked.
You're actually not the first person to say that. Chef Chris Wadsworth was on the show, and he had the same. He kind of said the same thing, and he felt like he didn't get to participate on the show because he was from Lafayette, and they were looking for a New Orleans chef to be on the show. Why, in your experience, was it not such a great experience?
Well, the only reason why I was on the show was because I was from Lafayette, because I think that they needed a token Cajun. Right,
and I could see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't get to really display. Well, we did actually do a whole bunch of things. We actually butchered a pig on the show that was not, me and Donald Link butchered a pig together for the chefs. None of that was shown. And I don't know, like there was a lack of respect for the actual process, for the tradition behind it.
Wow.
I guess the good thing that came out of it was being able to like work with people like Justin DeVilliers, with La Petite Grocery, and the other chefs, amazing group of chefs that were on that show. But it was just I don't know, I felt like I was in kindergarten again.
Do you think the lack of respect was it wasn't from the chefs, as you're saying, it was from production side of it?
Absolutely. They had some really, really good people in the crew, but all in all, the whole experience just it's just a fake, watered down version of something that we take really serious here.
And you were also on the Anthony Bourdain No Reservations Cajun Country episode, which for me, I remember that episode vividly because it was part of why I wanted to start the food blog. Like the first 5 minutes where y'all are praying, they're praying over the peg. It still gives me chills to think about that scene, and it was just very much summed up what it is to live and eat and the respect that we have for our food in this area. So that episode was very important to me because that's kind of made me want to start the food blog and start talking about the food that we have in our area. Tell us what that was like.
That didn't suck.
Yeah.
that was an amazing experience to do something that you love, that's something that's like really close to my heart, that someone, not just anyone, like probably the world's biggest food critic to come to our area and respect it. He got it. You know, he contributed to it. He participated in it. You know, and for me, we finally had someone that was in media, that was, you know, very much part of pop culture, that came in and portrayed us in a beautiful fashion. You know, he showed the Cajun and Creole culture as a three-dimensional culture, not the in all the other bad representations that we have out there right now on television, which is like, you know, the way, you know, it's a shame because a lot of America, a lot of the rest of the world see us as alligator hunters or duck call makers.
Understand you like really backwoods. And
though my dad did have subtitles at one point, but you know, I mean,
I think we all have subtitles.
And that's funny
point.
because everybody knows, like, especially the swamp people guys, they don't live in that little shack. That's one of their camps on a big, huge operation where they're making tons of money. But like just like you said, it's TV and how they perceive it, and that. I remember watching that episode and thinking to myself, like, especially going to New Orleans to do the boucherie, I remember that I wonder if it's going to be the same thing in person as it was watching on TV with the production and different. You could, and I think it was even better in person, and I didn't think it was going to be. So
there's a definite like respect for the animal that we take a deliberate approach towards. I mean, you cannot. You can't dilute the fact that this is a living creature, you know, that someone has tended to. That you know that creature had its own life, it had its own birth, and in its death, we try to honor, you know, the sacrifice that beast is making to feed, you know, sometimes 200 people.
Right.
I wasn't ready for that. Like when we went, I remember driving down in the morning, telling my wife, I was like, you realize like, when we get there, the pig's going to be, I mean, this is going to be a full-on process. And I was really, like, taken back, almost, like, emotionally. That sounds weird. Like, to see the process, especially, like, when you and Brian were in the trailer, you know, talking to the pig. I remember you even said, like, give me a moment. I didn't expect that to happen. It's not that I don't think that was, like, part of you guys' personality and the way you operate. But I didn't expect to see it in that light, you know? And then even then, I remember Mike and CJ, everybody was in that, you know, making sure the pig, when he was bleeding, everything was going good, consoling the pig. And that was a really weird thing. I mean, it was a really beautiful thing. I gained so much more appreciation and felt so much more connected during the day because of that. And I still think every time I talk about it, that's the one thing I bring up, like, to see how that happened compared to the week before, I'm in the grocery store picking out, you know, pork chops or whatever. And the next time I went to the grocery store, I was like, I can't even buy that, you know? Like, it's so different that changes your perspective so much, and you're so much more appreciative if you go through it, you know, from start to finish and see, like, that people's hearts are into it. And it's just a really, you can't understand it. I know that, like, the Anthony Bourdain thing came close. You saw the Reverence. But unless you're there, you don't realize how powerful it can be.
I mean, as a species, we've become so disconnected from our food chain. You know, now the slaughtering of an animal, people have this like knee-jerk reaction towards it. You know, most people when they find out what, like this, you know, what I do or what I'm into, a lot of people have this appalled reaction towards it. When, if you think about it, like this should be part of our instinct.
Right.
Like we're carnivores by nature. You know, we're supposed to. I mean, we have canines. We're supposed to feel comfortable with that, and now, you know, I mean, we're completely disconnected out of that. We've removed ourselves from our position in that food chain. We've put these big corporations, you know, in that office of responsibility, which, you know, as a human being, everyone should, I feel, have that responsibility. We should take on that responsibility ourselves. And it's such a beautiful thing, you know. I mean, it's not murder. You know, it's survival. It's what we're supposed to do.
That was beautiful, and I'm tearing up because I have not had the pleasure of going to a boucherie from start to finish. I went to the one at Vermilionville, but I got there. I didn't go for the whole thing. So, like, I really I was supposed to go to the one in New Orleans, and so I would have got to see it from start to finish. But I really want to see this. Like,
I got to make backbone stew with Big Lou. I know that rhymes.
The master.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I was nervous going into that. I mean, I thought that was going to be the highlight of the day, which it was the highlight of the day, second only to what I thought would be, like, the worst part of the day, or the part, like, it's going to be all bloody and we're going to cut. That literally, that beginning, first hour, was the most, like, beautiful thing of the day. And then everything else fell second to it, even though the rest of the day was amazing.
And I was told
nothing can beat that.
It was a good pig. That apparently, like, that was a good pig. How it died is also.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. I mean,
was told that they had some, like, sometimes there's a lot of fighting and she just kind of went well.
Well, it's a weird thing. Like, you know, when a pig that's raised by a farmer is not available, and I do have to go with a feedlot pig. It's a completely different takedown. The pig is, you know, a lot of times dies a much more violent death. They weren't given the attention that they needed. You know, they're much more spooked by the presence of a human being. The reverence behind the slaughtering is so much. It's not just about. It is about the respect of the animal, but it's the quality of the protein that you're going to take from that pig. If that pig is calm, if the beast itself is calm and is relaxed, then the protein is going to be that much better because the adrenal gland isn't activated. And, you know, it's the same philosophy behind Kobe beef. You know,
right.
Those animals are very, very
Massaged
relaxed.
and taken care of.
They're drunk when they're killed. So, yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember.
I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou, co-host Zach Doise of LA Street. We've been talking to Toby Rodriguez about boucheries. So we were talking about in the last segment, you were on the Anthony Bourdain No Reservations episode, and I think that was the first episode that was strictly on Cajun country, because a lot of times the travel shows, it'll be majority New Orleans, and then they'll come here, and it'll be like this really tiny segment. But I think that was the first travel show that was all of Cajun country, which brings me to my next question. I know 2 weeks ago you were in New Orleans for the whole week, and it was all over the papers about promoting Cajun cooking in New Orleans. How do you feel about having to go there to promote what we're doing here?
You know, if you talk to someone who's from New Orleans, and they're pretty much sick of people going to New Orleans and asking for Cajun cuisine. They're as sick of it as we are. You know, they know that isn't Cajun country, and we're fortunate that we do have a few people out there that are doing it upright. Isaac Toops with Toops Meadery, you know, Isaac's from around the Crowley Rain area, and he's doing a good job at it. And, you know, of course, Donald Link is doing it upright. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot of misrepresentation there. So, you know, I mean, New Orleans is a food mecca of, you know, the southern United States. So it just seems appropriate that if people are going to continue to go there, then we might as well try to get it represented properly. And I really enjoyed being in New Orleans. It was, you know, in a way, it's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. You know, I mean, New Orleans is starving for a good plate lunch, a good plate of rice and gravy, you know, some good boudin. Try to find good boudin in New Orleans.
I would never eat boudin
there. It's almost impossible,
yeah.
You know. So it was. I enjoyed it. It was fun. You know, it's I had a really amazing reaction from the New Orleans culinary scene.
I've heard about the duck, the oyster stuff. Please just talk about that a minute. I remember seeing it on a friend's Facebook page for the Super Bowl party. That was the first time I saw it. I was like, what is this? And then I know you did it at the Three Muses. So just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a football fan at all. I'm not really big into televised sports a whole bunch. So for the Super Bowl, we decided to have a, after Super Bowl party.
Nice.
So, most of these types of ideas come from probably too much alcohol consumption. And the oysters were definitely, came out of that. Me and Jeremy Connor had been talking about, deconstructing something that's seemed to already be as stripped down as possible, but the eating of a raw oyster. When I was a kid, on Saturday afternoons, my mom would take us to church every Saturday afternoon. And so because my dad was a farmer, we would work through lunch, and she'd have to skip, we'd have to skip lunch. So when he came in from the barn, my mom would kind of whip something up real quick for us, and it usually came out of a fry daddy. Remember what a fry daddy was? Yeah. So it usually was like fried oysters, fried chicken gizzards, or fried chicken livers. Something that she could really pop in and pop out, and my dad could sit in his recliner in his blow-dried, feathered hair and in his underwear and eat this greasy, meal with a can of Old Milwaukee Light. And that paints a decent picture for you. Usually watching Hee Haw.
All right. And so you said we got to go to a traffic update real quick?
We've got a traffic update. I want to let you guys know that there is an accident on I-10 East near the Henderson exit. This is at milepost 115. The Henderson Police Department is out there investigating a crash, and this is according to Lafayette Police. Again, I-10 East near the Henderson exit. There's a traffic accident out there. Of course, you've got the bad weather that looks like it's on its way out here. It's not far out from Lafayette and from the St. Martin Parish area, so please stay careful out there.
Okay.
Gay Live Radio.
Woo!
All right, so now that we know what your dad looks like in his underwear,
my dad in his underwear had a really big influence on this dish. Trying to take those things that she prepared for him on Saturday afternoons and kind of bring them together. So I made a duck pâté with a strong concentration of horseradish in it, which would be something that you would put on a raw oyster. Took a razor blade and slit these little pockets into a raw oyster, which is pretty tedious to do.
Yeah.
And then took the duck pâté, put it in a piping bag, and piped in a little pouch of duck pâté into each raw oyster. And from there, dipped it in a little egg wash, and then into some crushed saltine crackers, which is what you would eat the oyster on, and then flash fried it in straight hog lard.
That's brilliant.
With a little bit of lemon zest on top and a dash of Louisiana hot sauce.
And this is why I have a culinary crush on you. I'm just saying.
It's actually on the Atkins diet as well.
Yeah.
So it's completely...
I ain't getting that check. I don't know where that happened.
All right. Well, I think Zach's got some questions for you now.
We mentioned earlier, we were talking about views on where Lafayette's going with the farm to table movement. We've talked about the horse farm a couple times and how a lot of people are going farm to table with herbs and vegetables. And I know the big booming thing now is going to each farm, Gotro, all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming from talking to you about conversation, we feel like that in the meat, I guess the meat movement, and talking about Eunice Superette and places like that. I guess if you want to speak on that, just what restaurants you know of and what kind of stuff's happening where local butchers are back on the forefront, and the difference between that and Cisco or a big purveyor.
With all the recent knowledge that has been acquired by the public through whatever documentaries are out there, just on what really happens at a packing plant, or what really happens at a feedlot. What are you really buying out of your local grocery store, out of its cooler? What is that really? It is the protein of a certain animal, but how was that animal treated? What what type of steroids were pumped into that animal to get it to that size. I mean, it's all about the almighty dollar when it comes to that. And I think people are, realizing that that's not the healthy approach. That's you're not only putting it into your own body, but you're pumping that into the body of your child. I mean, this is what we're consuming, and we're only as good as what we consume. And I think people are starting to become aware of that and realizing that there are alternatives. And all this, unfortunately, all this happens in waves of fads. And I'm not that big on the fad side of it, even though that is probably the reason why I'm sitting here right now. I mean, it was never a fad to me. It was just something that we grew up doing. It's something that we've always done. Right. But however we've gotten here, we're here, and it's an important thing. And I'm happy to say that people, there are businesses like Unisuperette that are starting to reap some benefits behind it, because people do want to know where their animal is coming from. And if you want to know where your animal is coming from, and if you're shopping with Unisuperette, all you have to you can go to the superette and see the animal a day before it's in that meat case, and see that they're treated with respect, and they're of a high quality.
Yeah, and that's like, do you think that? I don't want to call it a fad, but you know how like in the last 3 years with all you mentioned documentaries like,
Food Inc. or
Food Matters,
mm-hmm.
all that stuff, that kind of shed light. Do you think it's something that's going to stay, or do you think something that's going to come and go? More specifically on your end with, knowing where the animal came from.
Well,
we hope it stays.
I hope it stays, and I don't think we have a choice. I think it has to stay. I think as a species, if it doesn't stay, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll all be like test tube, eating random stuff. What is, you said your go-to place for meat. What is your go-to place for boudin, and what is your go-to place for crackling?
Okay.
If you don't want to upset anyone, you can say more.
No, I have no problem with upsetting people. So my go-to place for boudin, because I live in Grand Coteau, definitely Don's.
Okay.
I love Don's. Now, if I'm at my parents' house, it would absolutely be Charlie T's in Brobridge.
I've been there. I liked it.
Oh yeah, Mr. Charlie's got a really good boudin.
Are they related to the Billy's boudin people?
No, absolutely
They're not. Okay.
No, but I think that I think that the Lafayette boudin,
mm-hmm.
which was also, in my opinion, a fad, something that I think could be accredited to the Best Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because boudin used to not taste like that in Lafayette. And I think that there were a lot of people that worked at the Best Stop that migrated to other specialty meat places,
right.
and boudin changed. I think that, Best Stop could definitely be accredited to that. But, it's a little bit greasier, it's a little bit meatier, it's a little bit spicier, as where boudin as a kid was definitely had much more liver in it, maybe not as greasy. And as far as crackling go, I would say Don's again, but if they were still doing it, Goulas in Ruth between Parks and Brobridge. But I don't think he's making cracklings anymore, unfortunately.
Nice.
All right, and so we mentioned earlier the Runaway Feast, which is a new adventure put out by the Runaway Dish, which is Denny and Katie and all the supporting.
The magnificent Culberts.
Yes, they could have their. That's who needs a reality show.
Absolutely.
That would be pretty intense. All right, so it's you, Brian, Claire Burton, and Mark Crampy from Social,
mm-hmm.
and then Manny from Bread and Circus. Do you guys know?
And maybe Justin. Justin Gerard.
Okay,
yep.
That is true. They said, and more to come.
Yep.
So I know we can't give away where it's going to be because that's only information for ticket holders. But I
think I heard maybe the Piggly Wiggly parking lot on University. And, yeah.
Yes. Town Square Media parking lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
1:30. Anyways, do you know what you guys are going to be doing?
I'm going to cook a whole hog In fact, me and Denny are going to go to the Superette in the morning. There's some Inglewood hogs that we're going to go take a look at, which is a local farmer. So I'm going to me and Brian are going to cook a whole hog on rotisserie, and the other chefs involved are going to do some interpretations of traditional barbecue sides.
Cool. And we talked earlier about you not really seeking out the phenomenon, which is boucheries and kind of what you're doing now. But not many people know what you do when you're not doing that. So technically you're a smorgasbord of
a jack of all trades,
creativity, so to speak, artist, sculptor. But what would you say your title is when you're not out there doing what you're doing?
I'm an artist. I mean, first and foremost, with everything that I do, I take the creative approach. If I were a greeter at Walmart, I would definitely have to find some way to do that creatively. But yeah, I'm a visual artist, sculptor. I draw. I've done that for years. Culinary was always just something that I did on the side. When friends got together, I was the friend that always cooked. And but for a living, what I make money with, I do restoration and remodeling in old homes. I build furniture. General contractor.
Cool. All right, if you could cook with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? It can be anybody. A relative, someone in the culinary field, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would absolutely cook with my grandma.
Aww.
Yeah,
that's who mine were too.
My hero in as far as culinary goes is Mabel Rodriguez. She's originally from Catahoula, lived in Brobridge, where my dad grew up, and there's so many things that I saw her that still inspire me today that I saw her do as a kid. Majority of my dishes do come from what I ate at her table. Just, a reinterpretation of it. I would say either her or Gallagher.
A lot of watermelon.
Yeah.
Definitely. And what we talked earlier, I know a little bit about your future plans, but if you could tell everyone kind of where you're trying to take the whole boucherie and knowing where your food comes from movement, where are you going to try to take that for yourself? Do you have any plans?
I would say not necessarily the end product, but where I would like to nestle in at would be a restaurant. Like I'd like to give downtown Lafayette a boutique style, very vieux temps, kind of European butcher shop. Something that's a cool hang also.
Yeah.
I want a bar that you can come to and eat boudin, or you're sitting at the bar and you can order a steak. I'd like to give Lafayette, especially downtown Lafayette, a real steakhouse. Something where the animals are butchered there. You can go in, you can choose the cut of meat that you want, and it's cooked there right in front of you.
You're going to have to keep the animals on the roof or something.
No, that's what Willie Burson had Unisuperettes for.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Any seafood? Would you put any seafood on the menu?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Just to stick with that?
I think that it would be spreading that theme too thin, There's plenty enough seafood out there. If you want seafood, go to Don's. I want to do meat.
Nice.
Straight up meat.
Is this a place you could buy retail cuts from, or is this only?
I would. Yeah, definitely. It's a butcher shop. You could walk in and have a very fine dining experience in the evenings. You can go there during the day as it being a true delicatessen. There being a charcuterie counter and get a really nice sandwich. But you can also walk in and buy a pound of sausage or buy some boudin.
So this is like the one stop.
Well, the other thing, too, is that I would like to inadvertently help the restaurant scene, supplying some nice cuts of meat.
Keeping it local.
To not only residents of Lafayette, but also to some of the restaurants.
I'm excited. If this ever happens, I will be there with bells on. Toby, thank you so much for coming on the show again. It was a true pleasure to have you on the show. All right, that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next week, Sunday at 6 p.m. This has been Tiffiany Decou and Zach Doise on News Talk 96.5 KPAL, and this has been the Lafayette Food Junkie Show. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy eating, Acadiana.